Selassie I. Rastafari, hey, yo, this is Nayaki Masai. Fire fi blaze, fire fi burn. Burn them dirty ways and them corruption. Fire fi blaze, fire fi burn. Burn the wicked man and all them confusion.
Just as Rastafari enter, yeah. With tidings him speak in regards to the law. With tidings him talk in regards to the law. The underlying rules will hold the earth center. Rastafari talk in regards to the law. Recrimination in regards to the law. Can be harsh and chaotic in regards to the transgress of the law. Highly Selassie is the mouth of the law. Precipitate water rush through the law. Waters that heal and the earth center. Don't believe sit up in the equator.
No corruption on planet Earth. Nor no other planet. Joe! Read your Bible, little children. Read your Bible, little children. You can't carry liar, but children. Same thing make a bun down, so the mambo marrow. One like them drunk and one like them barrow. To flash the lightning and burn out them marrow. Caesar make the world a release no lightning no barrow. Same thing make the Almighty make.
Yes, can I help you?
Good morning. We're police officers from Kennington Police Station. I'm the Deputy Community Liaison Officer for Brixton Police. These officers are from Holborn and have in their possession a warrant to search these premises.
Look, I do not have the authority to allow that.
Who does have the authority?
Not me.
Why won't you let us in?
Because I do not have the authority. You should wait.
Wait for who? What other authority do you need? We've got a warrant signed by a magistrate to say we can enter these premises.
Well, that's not good enough. Can't you come back later this evening?
No. No. There comes a point when we have to do our job. Side door. Side door. Check upstairs, lads. Dave, come on. Take your off in, mate. Check those rooms. Bill! Bill! I'm the plastic bag up here. Lots of them. Colin, have you got anything? Pete! You know me, I'm John Crow, Inspector Crow. We say, come on. Easy. Hey, give us no money. We have no problem.
Do you know why there's stolen books in this building? No. Do you hold a position of authority in Ethiopian World Federation Incorporated? No! Come on, surely you must know. Where do you live then? Where I live. Are you Seymour MacLean?
I am. And who are you?
We're police officers from Holborn, and this is a warrant to search your flat.
Come in.
Here we go. Seymour MacLean, I must caution you that whatever you say may be taken down and used in evidence. Whose room is this?
I use this as my office. I do my research in here.
And where did these come from?
All will be revealed if you have done your job properly.
What's that supposed to mean?
Your research and investigations should have told you. Now, which one of you is Main Ian?
How do you know my name?
We have our contacts. You took your time getting here. We were expecting you a year ago.
Now, if I can briefly go over the situation. Yesterday you were arrested. Yes?
Was I?
Oh, yes. Whatever you say, you were arrested yesterday. And in the course of conversation with Sergeant Hawkerty and myself, you admitted that you were responsible for, I think the words you used were liberating or retrieving property that rightfully belonged to the Ethiopian people.
You say arrest. This term arrest. Being Rastafarian, we are not obliged to obey your English law. We only obey the law of His Imperial Majesty, which is the Fetanagast.
Suffice to say, you are in this country, and we're investigating a matter which the rest of the population, whether you like it or not, consider breaking the law.
Is it looting, breaking the law? Isn't pillage breaking the law? Isn't the desecration of a church breaking the law?
What church have we desecrated? We haven't desecrated any church.
Magdala Alem in Ethiopia, burned by you British in 1868.
Are you going to accuse me of things that happened in Ethiopia before I was born?
You are the representative at this time. You are the man on the spot.
I'm only the pawn.
It is the pawn that gets burned first, always. The kings and queens.
Oh, that sounds like a threat. That does, Seymour. Are you threatening us? Are you threatening me?
The fire of Rastafari is not partial. If you are wicked, if you have a wicked and deceitful nature, you will get burned.
Well, it's you and I quite safe, then, Ian. Quite safe.
Getting back to the question of libraries. How and why did you become a member of the library at SOAS?
In history, you will find that when His Imperial Majesty, Rastafari at that time, in 1924, when he visited London, one of the places he went was to the School of Oriental and African Studies. Now, we thought it necessary.
No, we thought it necessary. Who? Who thought it necessary? When you use the word we, Seymour, it may well be that you're talking about other people, and that's a conspiracy. Now, if you mean I when you say we, then use the word I, because we want to be fair to you. Do you understand that?
Assuming responsibility, I thought it necessary to visit these schools of learning to see exactly what this great collection
You
is.
took responsibility of going to SOAS and planning to recover the rightful property of the Lion of Judah, Rastafarian, whatever his name is.
His Imperial Majesty.
Did you or not? A simple question, yes or no.
Yes.
Are you responsible for the retrieval of the books at SOAS?
I think I can qualify that. Yes.
Having said that, was there anyone else involved?
There was no one else involved.
No one else. I can't believe that. Come on.
How did you get the books out of the library?
We've studied. You find that we can devise ways.
Yeah, I'm sure you can devise ways, but I'm asking you in what ways?
He wants us to tell him, Colin.
We spirited them out.
How did you get the books out?
With meditation, you find that we can make things move.
Poppycock, how do you expect me to believe that? Seymour, for goodness sake, come on!
I tell you what, If your spiritual powers can move hundreds and hundreds of books, you might even get yourself a convert.
Get myself a
Convert. I might grow my hair and become a Rastafarian.
growing your hair will not make you a Rastafarian.
Well, you know what I mean.
No, I don't know what you mean.
Well, convert me.
Convert you? I can't convert anyone. I am not a preacher. I am a soldier.
And what do you understand, Mr. Policeman, to be the essence of the Rastafarian belief?
I think they believe Haile Selassie was a prophet.
And would you agree that the Rasta is a man of peace?
That is the claim, I believe.
It is not a claim. It is. Their basic philosophy is peace and love. Are you aware these same Rastas try to intervene to stop the troubles in Brixton?
Not specifically, no.
You don't know much about the Rastafarians, do you, Mr. Policeman?
Well, there aren't many in Holborn.
Aren't many in Holborn? But it is your duty to understand these things. There aren't many people with dreadlocks and smoking ganja. This is no secret. Where I live in Potter's Bar, I don't smoke drugs. I don't even smoke cigarettes. I don't have lots, but I'm a total committed Rasta. You better believe it. This is no laughing matter, officer. I suggest you treat this man, this organization, with contempt because you don't understand these things. You had made up your mind already. He was a common tea book. Now, officer, at the beginning of your interrogation, page 2, near the bottom, Mr. McLean said, of course, you know it was Theodoros' library at Magdala that first was raided by your government in 1868. Now, what did you understand to mean by Theodoros and Magdala? What did these things mean to you?
I did not understand them at that point. Quite honestly, my knowledge of history is sparse.
Can I help you? You see, I suggest that the history of the people has been taken away from them. And he felt it should be given back so they can learn about their own history. In a nutshell, is what you think of that.
I'm not interpreting. You asked me what I was thinking at that time, and I can't remember what I was.
Isn't it true, officer, that my client seemed to you to be boasting about the number of clues he had left behind for you to catch him?
That is how I read the situation, yes.
And he deliberately left a trail so he could be arrested and tell the world that the British have property which belonged to his people.
He never explained so fully. He told me that he'd been tasked to find the books and that he discovered them and that it was his duty to recover them.
Yes, and I suggest he told you at no time at all he felt as though he was stealing anything.
Well, he would not agree with the word stolen.
And I suggest that he felt he had a right to these books. These books which had been brutally stolen by your British Army from Magdala and his people.
I'm not really qualified to judge.
Mr. Bryan, we all know what terrible things the British have done. You cannot ask this officer to arbitrate upon ancient events.
I was only asking his opinion.
Yes, Mr. Bryan, but you must allow him to tell you that he doesn't have one. Now, will you please continue with your cross-examination? Otherwise, we'll be here all year.
Your Honor, it is not my intention to waste one iota of the court's time. But I have been instructed to put this case, and I must follow instructions, however painful it may be.
Please continue, Mr. Bryan.
Officer, do you agree with me that a people who have a past to look up to is a better equipped people than a people that has no past?
I'm not qualified to answer that.
Thank you. You see, upon the tape, when you was questioning the youngster, your voice was as bright Just the morning star. Now with me sometime, I have to hook my ears to hear you. Huh? Why, you like a lamb now? Have you lost your speech?
No.
Well, then open your mouth then. Very well. Let's move on. I'm not putting you under any pressure, am I? Huh?
No.
I'm not being rude to you, am I?
No.
Thank you very much. Because I would hate to be rude to you. I want to be courteous to you as I've always been to everybody. Now, at the end of the interview, you asked him if there was anything else that he wanted to say. And this is what he said. And you tell me if this is the mind of a common criminal. We can say, blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is the law of Ali Selassie I, which is the Petanagas. We can only give praise to the Emperor, His Imperial Majesty, and do all that he wills us to do without fear of any form. No. Officer, armed with all the knowledge that you have learned in this court, no, I wouldn't say that you wouldn't investigate just the same. But am I right to believe that you would have proceeded differently?
No.
You wouldn't. We have no further question.
We will recess now. Mr. Bryan, I would like to see you in my chambers, please.
Very well, Your Honor.
All rise.
Yo, Rastafari, truth. What me I, truth. Selassie I know, man. More Rasta. You see, get bail.
Yeah, man, my mom stood bail for me, you know. So me I catch bus every morning for come on here.
So what's this lawyer guy like?
Barry?
Barry.
Yeah, well, Barry is Barry, you know.
Barry come here about 10 years before I come, you know. True. Yeah, man. He was a boxer in Kingston. And him come and hustle on the street in London. Yes, the man put himself through law school, working night and studying. And them was early days. Barry's a fighter, man.
Yeah, Barry. Don't know much about Rasta, but him heart in the right place, you know. Yes, man.
Barry, what happened? It was a warning. Hey, you know what he said to me? He said we were both old campaigners. But I'm going to present this case anywhere I can. It's too important to lose. Hey, you know about actus reus and mens rea?
No.
Well, there's a distinction in law between right action and right thought. An act may seem to be criminal, but if the person who did it had no criminal intent, if he believed he was right and entitled to do it, then it ceases to be a crime.
It can't be that simple, surely.
Well, that's the gist of it. In a nutshell. And I got to talk to Seymour. That is what you're doing with that. Give it to me. Now remember, you can't smoke ganja in the court, huh? No, gentlemen, look. I want you to know that I'll take this to the limit, whatever the judge say. I don't underestimate the importance of this case. Now, Seymour, if you don't like what I'm doing, just get up and stop me.
You're doing well on the Magdala.
Right. Now, there is something here in this transcript on page...
Hey, you know that Sergeant Badian? Him alright, you know. Him said to me, how long you been Rastafarian? So I said, from morning. He said, which morning? This morning?
This is important, Seymour.
Here it is on page 22. The British have certain obligations. We can only indicate to you what best course to take to avoid certain disturbances. And what did he mean by certain disturbances? Were you talking about Brixton and Toxteth?
Look, something has got to get the people moving. Look at things now. You have over 3 million unemployed.
Yeah, man.
Unless we get something moving, there's a lot of people out there who could cause a lot of damage. You understand? Look at the famine in Ethiopia. This government could do something. Think of South Africa. Them talk of apartheid, the vile system of apartheid, and do nothing. You understand?
Yeah, and about the riots.
Look, the youth of my generation are restless, sometimes much younger than we. Sometimes in my capacity as a researcher, a gatherer of information, I have to counsel them to be patient. We all have to. You understand?
All right, all right. No, look. When you're being cross-examined by the prosecution, I want you to answer the question directly. Nothing evasive. Now, I know this is the English law, not the Fetanagas, but it is the law I have to work with. All right?
Psalm 19. The law is more desirable than gold.
Yeah.
Rastafari.
Do you remember, Mr. McLean, how on the 28th of August, the Sunday Times contained an article about books which had gone missing from the School of Oriental and African Studies?
The Sunday Times published an article.
Did you see the article?
As I say, there was a lot of things brought to our attention, but I can vaguely remember something.
Mr. McLean, you told the jury and the police that you'd been taking these books deliberately, hadn't you?
We have a deliberate act of policy to preserve certain documents.
And that you'd been expecting that the police would get onto it?
Yes.
Yes. And you remember perfectly well, don't you? When you read about it in the Sunday Times?
No, I don't remember perfectly well, you know, because I do a lot of reading.
You don't remember reading about yourself in the Sunday Times? You weren't mentioned by name.
Was he in the Sunday Times?
Will you please not interrupt?
Your Honor, he says you remember reading something about yourself.
That's what he said, Mr. Bryan.
Well, let me make this point clear. He asked my client whether he remembered. He said he vaguely remembered. He said you vaguely remembered. You must have remembered. Then you skillfully managed saying reading something about yourself. That is to say, he couldn't vaguely remember reading something about himself. Where is the evidence for this, say Rassimo McLean? No, if we were to ask such questions to the witness, you would step on us like a ton of bricks. You say, don't answer that. Why is he not told no, not to answer that? If this trial is to be seen to be fair, let the prosecution ask questions that are fair. I must protest.
I must ask my learned friend to restrain himself, because I can't possibly go on cross-examining if you keep interrupting in this deleterious fashion.
Will you ask my learned friend to be fair to my client?
Yes, it sounds perfectly reasonable to me. But never mind, let's press on.
At the time the Sunday Times contained this article, a lot of these books were at St. Agnes Place, weren't they?
Well, August, the famine relief report came out about them.
My question was, please be kind enough to answer it. When the Sunday Times article came out, a lot of these books were at St. Agnes Place.
Are you saying that's a fact?
I'm asking you.
Oh, I couldn't answer.
Was there a library at St. Agnes Place?
The I&I Library is the continuation of Haile Selassie University, which has been established, which we have established in this country.
And you were the librarian of the I&I Library, weren't you?
We are responsible for the books, but we are not the librarian, no.
Well, if you're responsible for the books, then surely you're the person we should ask about the movements of the books.
The principle we apply to the movement of the books is that they were first looted by General Napier. Anyone who sees fit to recover library books, it is at their discretion.
Were you responsible at the I&I Library for books which had been recovered from public libraries? Apart from the ones we've already mentioned, from Lambeth and Wandsworth libraries?
We are responsible for the books about His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie, Africa and Ethiopia.
I have a book here from the list of books missing from Wandsworth Public Library. The WM 678, entitled The End in Africa. Were you responsible for retrieving that book?
It is one of the books which should be preserved, yes.
This book, which you say should be preserved and put into the library, The End in Africa, what's it about?
The End in Africa.
Yes, I appreciate that's the title of it.
It's about the Second World War in essence.
It's about the 8th Army Campaign in North Africa, isn't it? Now, what possible claim could you have on this book?
Well, the benefit of education. It tells you how the armies of Europe used Africa as a battlefield to test out their weapons.
Yes, but it's got nothing to do with Magdala, or General Napier, or indeed Ethiopia, has it?
No.
No.
In a way, it's more serious than that. More serious than Magdala. Yeah. Because the League of Nations, in which England is, or was, the dominant force, allowed this thing to escalate by making war on Ethiopia in 1935. To make war on a king in 1935 is unforgivable.
Were you aware that British troops fought in the Western Desert against the Italians and defeated them, the people who invaded Ethiopia?
And I'm sure that you are aware that it was the British Parliament and Crown who allowed the Italians to enter in the first place.
Allowed them?
Through the Suez Canal.
In the end, I thought the British restored Haile Selassie. How are they to blame?
Because they did not preserve the peace through the League of Nations.
There's a very nice picture book here by Gordon Honeycomb about Princess Diana, which was taken from your library. Now, what on earth she got to do with Rastafarianism? Or indeed, Ethiopia? Or the Emperor Haile Selassie?
Well, you see, the Prince of Wales is going to inherit the throne of England. And as inheritor of the throne, he has to obey the laws of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie, as laid down and as obeyed by his predecessor, George V.
It's a picture book, isn't it? With very nice colour pictures of her wedding and so on. The sort of dresses she likes to wear, that sort of thing. It's utter nonsense to say this book has anything to do with your research.
Well, you see the connection between the British royal family and the Ethiopian royal family.
And I suppose you found this when you were looking for the Magdala collection. Was this Asterix book retrieved for your research?
It's a children's book. You must understand. We make efforts to accumulate history so that it can be disseminated to the children. We always keep records so that we can make sense out of nonsense.
True.
Time to go back in.
As your honor knows, I have done everything humanly possible to have these witnesses here before. And I am most grateful to your honor for allowing me to call them now. Most grateful.
Yes, Mr. Brown. Let us not prolong matters. Please continue.
Certainly, your honor. By profession, Mr. Bell, you are a historian.
I don't make my living as an historian, no. But over the years, I've made a special study of certain aspects of African and, in particular, Ethiopian history. But I'm not a historian in the sense that I make my living at it, no.
Oh, what can you tell us, Mr. Bell, about... No, I am not particularly tying you down to the Magdala collection or materials which came out of Ethiopia. No, my main concern is Africa in its totality, Black Africa. Now, my client's main concern is materials stolen by the Europeans, particularly the British from Africa. No, I am not particularly interested in the Greek...
Elgin marbles.
Elgin marbles, thank you. No, I am sure the Greeks are quite capable of looking after their own affairs. No, my main interest is Africa.
Yes, well, the plunder of Theodore's library was not the only instance of this sort of thing which went on in the 19th century. There were, I think, the Benin bronzes, the throne of the Ashanti kings, from what was formerly the Gold Coast.
Can I just stop you there? All this, in my submission, is irrelevant. I mean, when we get on to the Benin bronzes and the Elgin marbles, who knows where it'll end? Goodness gracious me, one can think of a million examples. All this, in my submission, is irrelevant.
I disagree with my learned friend. My client is charged with stealing books related to Ethiopia, but also to Africa.
Yes, Mr. Brown, your client is charged with stealing books. And counsel's objection is that you're now seeking to bring evidence about other things, thrones and bronzes.
Your Honor, I am only trying to lay the foundation. Well, if it is embarrassing for the British to be reminded that they've stolen other things from Africa, then so be it. But here is a gentleman, an honest English gentleman, who is willing, irrespective of embarrassment, and show as an honest English gentleman.
Mr. Brown, please continue with your cross-examination, but keep to the subject of books.
Very well, Your Honor. Mr. Bell, can you tell us about the Magdala collection? Because I'm sure there are many people in this court, including myself, who had never heard of it until this case. Can you tell us how those books were taken from Ethiopia and brought to this country?
Yes, well, I think perhaps it's important to explain the background to the Magdala expedition, which was essentially a rescue mission sent to release European hostages being held prisoner by King Theodore of Ethiopia.
Yes, yes, and the looting of the books.
Well, on April the 13th, the British stormed Magdala. Theodore shot himself and committed suicide in the second gateway. And the British troops overran the whole settlement. Then the looting began. Theodore had gathered most of the ancient historical treasures of Ethiopia and put them in Magdala, the royal regalia, religious icons, and illuminated books, written in manuscript form on parchment. The British troops broke into the royal treasury and took whatever they could lay their hands on.
papers. And the books.
Well, the loot was auctioned on the spot. By far the heaviest bidder was a man called Holmes, who had been sent along with the expedition by the British Museum.
Yes.
The manuscripts which he bought are the so-called Magdala collection. There are about 400 of them. And although a few were presented to Queen Victoria and are now in the Royal Library in Windsor, the vast majority, about 350, are still in the British Museum.
Yes. Now, Mr. Bell, my client is charged with retrieving books. What would your reaction be if these books were returned to Ethiopia?
I would be very pleased if they were returned to the country of their origin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bell. Thank you. And may I say how honored I am again. Thank you.
No questions, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I would now like to call the second witness, Mr. Winston Lawrence.
I think, Mr. Brown, we will recess now until after lunch.
Very well, Your Honor. Now, can you help us, Mr. Lawrence, with your educational background relative to history? Now, we know you were born in Jamaica, but I assume you would consider yourself to be of African descent.
That is correct, yes.
Now, what history were you taught in school relative to your African background?
One simple answer to that. None. Nothing at all from the school.
So, how did you envisage Africa? I mean, how do Jamaicans on the whole envisage Africa?
There are two factors. One is the information which was piped into me, which suggests that Africans are uncivilized. And that Africans are a downtrodden people, without intellect, without any sort of cultural basis or importance of any kind. Now, I could not accept this. There was always something saying the contrary to me. My determination to go to Africa was a part of that exploration. Yes. In verifying and satisfying and seeing Africa for myself.
Yes. Now how? How does this fit in with the Rastafarian desire, which is commonly known for repatriation?
I think that I would like to say that the Rastafarian desire is perhaps like mine was, because I've been to Africa and I can now see it from the past. What I have accumulated from that experience is another matter.
Yes. Now what effect, if any, to you as an African who just happened to be born in Jamaica? Now what effect, if any, did this experience, this information have on you as a Jamaican, as a black man?
It revolutionized my whole consciousness about race. It convinced me that my race, the black people, are a people of equal humanity in the world. It made me to continue to feel human. It has given me strength and courage. It has uplifted my dignity. And I have passed all these beliefs and teachings to as many young black people as I can lay hands on.
Yes, Mr. Lawrence. No, from your experience in England with black people, and you're a black man yourself, and so am I, what do you find is a general feeling among the blacks in this country related to their cultural identity?
Well, I think they do not see themselves as part of British society. A simple test. I've spoken to many young blacks born in this country. And when I raise the issue of Britishness and race, and I have a way of taking the mickey out of them, and I'll say, well, you're an Englishman. And the moment I say that, there is something crucial about it. Everyone starts rejecting their past. No, I'm not an Englishman. No, I'm not English. I am sure there are many Rastafarians who have perhaps never been to Jamaica or any other part of the Caribbean where their parents must have come from, nor Africa, and yet identify themselves with another land other than this one.
How do you see a people without a history? What part do you think a race without a history? What part do you, as a youth and community worker, feel history play?
Well, the absence of history is a tree without a root.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Lawrence. Thank you. Your Honor, that is the key.
You've heard a great deal of argument and testimony in this case, designed to establish a motive, or indeed, justification for Mr. McLean's actions. It is the view of the Crown that notwithstanding the fact that he's a black man born in Jamaica, Mr. McLean nonetheless lives in this country and must therefore abide by its laws. Even if he were Ethiopian, which he's not, he would not be entitled to walk off with books from British libraries. Mr. McLean is an intelligent man, by all accounts a devout Rastafarian. But it must be possible in a law-abiding society to do historical research and to follow one's religion without stealing. It remains the Crown's simple contention that although the accused may not look or sound like a thief, that is precisely what his actions make him.
Liberator.
Furthermore, he admits to taking these books and to leaving a trail of clues for the police. And in the context of the Rastafarian organization with which he is connected, he has admitted sole responsibility. Now, you've heard how the police investigation uncovered these facts and admissions. And you've seen the witness statements of the librarians whose collections have suffered. And I would remind you that the British Library, the Library of the University of London at its School of Oriental and African Studies, the Foreign Office Library, the Bible Society, the public libraries of Wandsworth and Lambeth have collectively been deprived of nearly 2,000 books, of which only 1,244 have been recovered. Now, the accused maintain that these books had been meditated out of the various libraries concerned. But I would suggest to you, it's obvious they were taken by subterfuge, illegal subterfuge. And although the accused may not have profited from these books in any material way, he has nonetheless deprived ordinary, decent people of access to them. Where, I wonder, would our libraries be if more people decided to plunder them? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, upon the evidence, can there be any other verdict but guilty?
Members of the jury, it is now my turn to address you faithfully on behalf of my client, Ras Seymour McLean. Now, this is a task, I must confess to you, that I do not cherish. It is a very heavy task. It is a very heavy task because the charges against this man goes far beyond this court. Far beyond this court. Whatever the fact, this case will change the destiny of black people. You see, my client?
You see, what he wanted to do was to bring to the whole world the crimes that Britain and the white world has committed against black people. I mean, you didn't know that black people have such a rich history, because I am sure that when you see us walking down the street, you first thought we were sons of slaves. The one crime I will never forgive the Englishman for, and that is he stole our dignity. I have been in England 31, 32 years, but I'll not deviate from being black. No. You know, I'm not the sort of person, you know, that if I walk down the street and you step on my toe, I'll go turn at you and smile like I'm on a bus or a train, you know. If you step on my toe, I'll go step on your back. I'm not going to smile at you and say, I say, old chap, you're on my toe. I'm not an Englishman, I am a Jamaican. I respect this country. I respect the laws of this country. I respect England. But that is not to say that I shall abandon my culture. But let us move on, let us move on.
Mr. Bryan, are you going to talk about the case this morning?
Your Honor, it is a case that I am on about here. It is a case that I'm on about. Look, you have to know that the past determines the future. That is what we are fighting for. This is what black people are fighting for. This man is saying, you took my history. You caused me to have no past. And if I haven't got a past, I cannot look to my future. That is the nucleus of this case. The nucleus of this case. It is the state of mind of this man you have to attempt to understand before you can even attempt to find him guilty or not guilty. Because if this same man is going to take books and then leave a trail of clues and then send a letter to the library and send it to the police, now why did it take you so long? I mean, this is a man who is unemployed. Yet there is no evidence that he took 1 penny for what he did. Now, if you are sure he is guilty, then you return a verdict of guilty, because my client seeks no pity from you. He'll do it again and again. You see, the state does not commit crime, you know. But when an individual do it, it's a crime. When my learned friends say, ordinary right-thinking people will know it is dishonest to have stolen property and keep it in their possession. Now, is he saying that Her Majesty the Queen is not a right-thinking person? Or the trustees of the British Museum are not ordinary right-thinking people? Is he? Or those most cherished of universities, Oxford and Cambridge? Because if he's saying that, then something's wrong. Because right now, as I'm talking to you, he's standing here right now, locked up behind those walls, those institutions that I have just mentioned, have within their walls the whole history and culture of the black man. I can see some of you shaking, you know. But I can understand, because it's not nice for your ears. You only digest the things you want to digest in your ears. You see, members of the jury, you have to understand the feeling and vibration of the black man before you can understand this case. Whether you like it or not, McLean is a fanatic Rasta. I'm a Rasta myself, you know. But I wouldn't do what he did. Maybe I'm a coward, but these young people are not taking any more. They say they want what is mine. The only weapon the Rastafarian carry is in Bible. His only desire is to bring peace and an end to violence in the street. You know, when he talk about fire, yes, all he's doing is quoting the Bible. You can read it for yourself. Revelation chapter 18, verse 2. And he spoke with a strong voice saying, Babylon the Great is fallen.
Members of the jury, dishonesty is the matter that you will have to consider carefully. It is no defense for a man to say, I know that what I was doing is generally regarded as dishonest, but I do not regard it as dishonest myself. Therefore, I am not guilty. Now, what he is entitled to say is, I did not know that anyone would regard what I was doing as dishonest. Robin Hood took from the rich to feed the poor. He would still be dishonest in what he did, because reasonable, honest people applying ordinary standards would say what he did was dishonest. He took other people's property. It goes a little further. Section 21A of the Theft Act, 1968, says that a man is not dishonest if he appropriates property in the belief that he has in law the right to take the property.
Rubbish.
But of course, it must be our law, and not the law of Ethiopia or any other country. It matters not for that purpose whether he has the right or not. You might have no difficulty in deciding that Mr. McLean, who, as we have heard, was born in Jamaica and came to live in this country, had the right to take books from the British Library because he thinks they belong to Ethiopia.
Yes.
However wrong he may be, if he honestly believes that he has the right, then he should be found not to be dishonest. That means that the whole count against him fails.
Not guilty.
Not guilty. Not guilty.
I in no way want to say anything during the course of my summing up which diminishes or belittles the beliefs held by Mr. McLean in relation to his background, the feelings that he had when he discovered, as he told us, not a background of nothingness, but a background of Ethiopia. But you are entitled to see how he behaved. The basic test you must apply, members of the jury, is would reasonable and honest people applying ordinary standards think what was done was dishonest?
Will the foreman please stand? Dealing with count 1, which charges Seymour McLean with theft, have you reached a verdict?
Yes, we have.
And do you find Seymour McLean guilty or not guilty on count 1?
Guilty.
You find him guilty on count 1. Is that the verdict of you all, or by a majority?
That is the verdict of us all.
Seymour Tafari McLean. The laws of England have evolved over many centuries. Much of our law is embodied in statutes approved by Parliament, who pass laws on behalf of the people of this country. The laws are frequently amended to meet the needs of society. I say this because I hope it is now clear, although from what your counsel said on your behalf, Maclean, it does not appear to be, that if every individual or group of individuals chose to say, this is the law for us, and not to accept the law of the people, then in a very short time, total anarchy would rule in this country. I am not sure about your motives. I've heard a great deal of testament about why you did these things and what your motivation was. The fact is that you stole a great quantity of books, many of which are irreplaceable, and those which have been recovered have to some extent been defaced, but they have been recovered. I have to decide what is an appropriate sentence to pass upon you. I accept the fact that you did not act for purposes of material gain. If you had, then your sentence would have been very much longer. I accept the fact that you acted in the way you did because of your views about life and what ought to happen. The sentence I pass upon you is that you go to prison for 9 months. In passing this sentence, I take into account everything that I can consider on your behalf.
Magdala.
Babylon like an ancient warrior, go mash them down. Fire go red in this Armageddon. Fight for people, they are suffering too long. Life over death, it's a right over wrong. Hail King, I listen, I say I conquer it like